Hello everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another one of our weekly Ascendance of a Bookworm discussion videos. I know I missed last week, I'm sorry. Today we're here to talk about the penultimate episode of Season 3, Episode 9. Since next week, rather, is going to be the final episode of the season. Possibly the final episode for a while. It'll depend on when we get the Season 4, if we get Season 4. But with that said, let's go ahead and jump into it. So right out the gate, it's looking like the thing that I heard was half true. Which, like, okay, that's fine. It's a little better than what I thought was gonna happen. But it does look that as though that mine is really gonna be leaving. This, I will say, the surprise was that instead of it being Cars, it's gonna be Sylvester, which was a surprise, as Mine's guardian of sorts, her adoptive father. It being Sylvester, I do think makes it does make a bit more sense in terms of like where what the show could do with Sylvester versus Cars, because again, Cars is cool. I'm not gonna lie though, now that I think about it, I'm actually kind of talking myself out of it, because like, I do think Sylvester's the more fun choice. It would be more fun for it to be Sylvester as the adoptive as Mine's adoptive father, and like the hijinks that the two of them could get into seem like really fun and interesting. But Cars feels like the more appropriate pick. You know, it feels more like Mine should be Cars's like adoptive daughter, and then have Sylvester serve as like the wacky uncle type character. That feels like a bit more appropriate. But regardless, I'm of a few minds about this. So I've said in the past, this is a tricky video to make because I don't want to upset anyone. I've said in the past that if the spoiler that I heard was true, that I would stop watching. And it seemingly is becoming true that like Mine, like the spoiler that I heard is that Mine would be leaving the current group, right? So that Mine would be taken away from the current group. So that's seemingly happening since Ferdinand said like, hey, you have a choice here, right? Like either you are immediately adopted by Sylvester, or you know, we deal with the consequences of like these nobles having their way. And of course, you know, Gunther does his best to try to talk Mine out of it because he's Gunther and he's great and he's like arguably the best character in the whole thing. But Mine makes in my opinion, the correct call to save them. Right, instead of trying to fight against them in courts, which they'll obviously lose because it's a noble. There probably wouldn't even be a court case. It would just, that'd be it. She instead chooses to save them. Now, I will say that I, in the past, had said that if that happens, that I would just drop the show, because the characters that I like are the regular characters. They're the season 1 crew, right? That's Gunther, Lutz, Benno, like Thule, like that side of things, right? The idea of not having them anymore because of the season 2 gang's stupid crap, it does make me angry, right? Because it's like, I am disappointed. I didn't want this. This is not where I wanted the show to go. But at the same time, not my show, not my say. I didn't make the novels, you know, like I didn't make them. I didn't write them. At the end of the day, my opinion doesn't super matter, right? Like it does as like like you came to this channel to hear my thoughts. So in that sense, yeah, my opinion matters, but my input does not. That's what I'll say, is that as consumers, our opinions matter, but our input does not. Because to me, like, at the end of the day, like, sure, do I have issues with this? Sure, of course, right? But it's Mia Kazuki's decision at the end of the day, the Mia Kazuki being the author of the story. It's their decision, not mine. Mine? That's clever pun, not intended, but, you know, that's what happened. So it is the height, as Super Eye Patch Wolf has said in the past, it is the height of hubris for somebody who talks on the internet to assume that they can do better. And I feel the same way. So know that what I'm saying now, I'm not saying as though, like, my way is best. I'm just saying this as, like, this is what I would have done. And what I would have done is I would have just not gone down this route. I would have never had this route be what it is. I would have had mine, like, I would have, like, the whole world would be different. Like, if it were me. Because, like, yes, the world building is interesting, but the instant you introduce the church and the nobles, it's where, like, even though it's interesting, it actively hurts the story that I was enjoying. You know, like, I wish that the lore and everything was in a separate story, a completely different story than the one that we're consuming, because I don't want mine to be taken away from Gunther and everybody. That's not what I want. I want Effa and Gunther to be able to watch their kid grow up. I want to see this character interact with the characters that we've had before. Now, on one hand, it's beautifully tragic, right? Because you have these characters who you want, like I said, like, you want to see them get to watch mine grow up. You want to see Lutz get to, like, grow, like, you want to see Lutz's journey continue, you want to see Benno's journey continue, but if we're not with them, if mine's off doing their own thing, we likely won't check in with them anymore, and they'll be out of the story, right? Possibly. So the idea of mine being ripped away from them, it's upsetting, in terms of, like, oh, how tragic, but at the same time, to me, it almost goes like a step too far into being tragic, to the point where it's, like, almost actively harming those of us who just enjoyed season 1. Because as much as I'm loving season 3's, like, action focus, I still prefer season 1. And season 2 was a big friggin' mess that we don't talk about. Season 3 is a huge step up with characters like Sylvester. We have characters like Cars stepping into the forefront, right? Like, characters like that. What's his name was actually interesting this week. I can't think of his name. McBlanderson, friggin' Mine's bodyguard. He was actually cool this week. But for the most part, we're still sort of stuck in this continuous sort of trend where, like, I keep noticing that thing that I was spoiled on forever ago might be happening, and it is. This threat that mine is going to be taken away. We still have to deal with it pretty much all season. We thought we were getting 2 years, but now it's pretty much decided that, like, no, this shit is happening, and it's happening right now. Now, on the plus side, we might actually get to see the High Priest and that other noble get their comeuppance now that Ferdinand has decided to show his big stupid face. Yes, I was mad at how long it took him. This man was absolutely on his Goku shit. Like, showing up at the last second, I'm like, where the hell were you? And he's like, I was in my secret room. God damn it. Like, I was like, oh my god. I'm not gonna lie, there's parts of the episode that I really liked. Like, I liked seeing mine get ready to throw down. Like, I wanted mine to whoop, like, the noble and the high priest's ass. I was excited for that. Seeing Gunther and bodyguard go toe-to-toe with the assassins was super cool. But at the same time, there's other things that bother me. I don't like where the story's going, right? Like, I really don't want them to do what I'm very concerned is going to happen. I do not want that. Because, again, I don't care about the other characters. The only one I like is Sylvester, and I just kind of like Cars. Don't leave me with just two characters that I enjoy Sylvester, but not as much as the season 1 crew. And Cars is just, like, palatable. He is fine, right? It's like, don't leave me with just those two, plus mine. Like, come on, man, right? Like, don't do this, right? There's that. I don't like that. And then on top of that, Delia is the worst. Like, whenever mine was like, I wonder if Delia and Dirk are going to be okay. Okay, this is going to be cold as shit. When the priest was like, will you go through a young boy to protect... Yes. I can hit you without hitting him. Right? Like, fuck off. Like, at this point, I'm just like, I don't care about this kid, and I super, super don't give a shit about Delia. When he's just like, will you make Delia cry? Yes, of course I would. Delia sucks. She's the worst. Everybody everybody hates Delia. I sincerely doubt that there's anyone who likes Delia. The kid is so obnoxiously annoying. Like, I was feeling a bit for her, like seeing her starting to become like a big sister to Dirk was like kind of sweet, but then she was just a complete and utter idiot. And it's like, I hate that they try to make Delia seem like she's playing the game, like she's smarter than she seems, only for her to continue to be a stupid kid, right? And it's like, okay, I'm getting into the point now where it's more of a rant, and I don't want to do that. Again, I'm not trying to step on anyone's toes. If you're enjoying this season, you're enjoying the season. And I am enjoying the season. I am enjoying this a lot more than season 3. But I'll say the big reason for that is Sylvester's great. Gunther has been taking big center stage. I do feel as though there's a pretty sincere lack of Benno, who is, like, again, like, Gunther, Benno, and Lutz are, like, always tied for the best characters in the show. Otto was back this week. Super cool to see Otto. I missed that guy. We have... I forget her name. The other Joseph and girl who is like mine but not mine. I wish the show was about them. They're pretty fun. Like there are characters still that like are being introduced that are fun, but just nowhere near as cool and interesting as what we were doing in season 1. Remember when this was a show about making books? Like, what happened to that? Like, what happened? To me, I feel like what I would have done is I would have just kept the show about books, and I wouldn't have had all this other stuff. I would have just had it be like, yeah, it's a show about books, and then maybe have it that mine gets, like, to meet these different fantasy people, and maybe mine goes on an adventure one day. Like, maybe, like, the show does... I would have been more okay if the show had left the characters in a way where mine gets the decision to go. Right? If what happens is that ultimately the show leads to these people asking mine to be like a scholar, to like write down their adventures in these book things that she's making, right? Like have mine be this like scholar that travels around with like the heroes of that world, right? Like mine is reincarnated and she's not the hero. She's instead this like traveling, she's like the hero's Jiminy Cricket from Kingdom Hearts, you know? Like she follows them around, she befriends them, she gets to see this beautiful landscape. Maybe Lutz goes along. Maybe Lutz is like their merchant character. Like he takes all the lessons from Benno and travels with them. Maybe like they keep in touch with the people in town through Benno, through the merchants. Like that would have been really cool, right? Like you do that, not this like church noble crap. Like I just like, it's interesting and I do love the world building. I just don't like where it went. Like I would have kept a lot of like the lore of the world, but I would have changed the hierarchy. I would have changed like this weird nonsense. Like it's just, this is not quite where I thought Ascendance of a Bookworm was going. This isn't it, Chief. Or like another one you could have done is like Ascendance of a Bookworm, right? You could have made it that mine goes from like making books to finding out that the nobles have books, and so she ends up opening like a library, and the nobles are kind of snooty to her, but like they are intrigued by this idea of a library, right? Like, and so you have like the you go from building just one book to building a full library, like to copying pages and stuff. Like it could have been really fun and interesting. You could have gone that way. You could have gone a more fantasy route with mine being a scholar. You could have gone a bunch of different ways. That I was very excited at the prospect of these things happening. Now, mind you, this isn't me saying that, oh, I didn't get what I wanted, so I'm not happy. It's more of, I didn't get what I wanted, and the thing that I was given, I don't like. That's the problem. It's not that I didn't get what I wanted. More often than not, I don't get what I want from my fiction. I am given a different story that I usually really enjoy, and I'm like, oh, I wouldn't have thought about that. And I certainly wouldn't have thought about this, but it's just not really where I want the story to go, right? I'm not saying it's bad, by any means. I'm just saying that I don't particularly care for it. I'd be stupid to say that it's bad. I'm just not interested in what this story is trying to do. I don't really like where it's going. I don't know if I would even come back for a season 4. This might be it, depending on what happens next week. And again, I could change my mind. Like, depending on next week could be like an absolute banger of an episode, which we know that this season can produce absolute bangers. So it is possible that next week's finale is like a total banger, gets me super hype, and I'm like, you know what? I changed my mind. I'm on board. Let's do this, right? But for right now, I'm more just very concerned, and I'm not super down with this direction. I could be sold on this direction, but right now I'm just not. And it's doing me a concern. It's doing me a concern. Now, I am going to very much be excited to watch Ferdinand absolutely whoopeth the ass of that one noble, because that's fun. But also, I'm not gonna lie, this episode made me really dislike Ferdinand too. I was like, man, Ferdy, like, 1 step forward and 5 back, man. And it's the same thing with mine, like 1 step forward, 5 back with mine. Like, I was like, I'm proud of her for making that decision. And it's cool to see her using magic, but I just don't like mine. She just annoys me. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, this episode had me thinking we were gonna see Sylvester, and it lied. Anyway, outro. And that's going to do it for today's video, everybody. So we hope you all enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to boop that up snoot. Share the video around. And of course, I have to give a big thank you to our lovely patrons. Look at these beautiful people. All these people who help keep this channel afloat. I sincerely appreciate it. And of course, I have to give a big thank you to Asaki VT, Elizabeth Just Elizabeth, Jeremy P, Matt87 Eagle, Shadow Creative, Shiorans, Stephen G, Stevie W, Trapmaster, Trevor W, and Tristan G. Thank you all once again so much for continuing to support the channel over on Patreon or here on YouTube just by watching the videos. I sincerely appreciate it. Be good, and we will see you next time.